So what does it look like for someone who's beginning this program to the end? What steps do they have to walk through to the point that they graduate from the program?
Well, first of all, they have to qualify. So as Beverly said, they have to be either enrolled or graduated from Prison University. There's several other programs that they have to go through before they're considered. They go through a variety of interviews, and they have to be approved by the prison administration. So that's before they come in. But we actually go through, it's a 6-month program. The first 2 months are education that Beverly mentioned, learning how the world has changed. Many of these guys have been in more than 10 years. So that's a big education. Then we actually go through the business planning process, 2 months of that. And then the last part is actually the pitch presentation. And we have a formula for that really does work. We actually ask them, first of all, to really discover what their passion is. And we'll wrap a business around the passion. That's really what we do. So they're talking about something they really believe in. We make them distill that down into a 1-minute pitch. So they have to really understand how to condense their message, and then they build it back up to a 5-minute pitch. And they practice and practice and practice, and the output is really phenomenal. In this last session, there's a guy named Jorge Heredia who's really English is his second language. And I really thought he'd have a problem. But he practiced so much, and he worked on his articulation to the fact that his presentation, frankly, was the best that we had in this last time. So you see this progression over time that's just amazing. It's extreme focus, and it's really a rigorous program. But you see a huge sort of evolution during that time.
I just wanted to say one thing about the pitches, and that is that I've seen so many startup companies just spend all of their time perfecting their UI, or they're perfecting some part of their either PowerPoint or whatever presentation program they're using, but they don't spend time practicing their pitch. And as mundane or low tech as it sounds, if you're going to pitch to an audience, and certainly an audience of investors or at a competition, if you don't set aside enough time to practice and practice and practice, it's not going to come off the way you want it to. It's so important. And we drill this into these guys. We bring in people from the business community to judge them and to give them critique and feedback just about the way they speak and their presentations, and it shows in the video how well they do.
So they pitch to a group of entrepreneurs and investors, but they're still in prison, most of them. So what happens from that point to the moment they leave prison and then beyond?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example of, you saw James Houston in the video. Last year he presented his business plan called Teen Tech Hub. And Teen Tech Hub is basically, he's from Richmond, which is next to Oakland, and it's one of the highest crime rates in the country. And his goal was to come back after he got out and establish Teen Tech Hub, which is an after-school program for kids 9 to 14, teaching them technology. And James has been in prison for 18 years, gets out in June, and during that demo day, there was a guy sitting in the audience who was a venture capitalist named Eric Moore. And Eric came from the same neighborhood, but he actually went the right path. He went to Dartmouth and Wharton and became an investment banker. And Eric was sitting in the audience, and he told me afterwards, he said, when James started presenting his business plan, I started to cry. And Eric's a big man. He said, I was a little embarrassed. This big black guy sitting in the audience, and he's crying, and I felt a little embarrassed. But those two got together, and it was Eric's dream to go back to his neighborhood and give back, and he was inspired by James. So they've gotten together, even though James is not out yet, but as of last week, we actually found a location, and we're going to open up Teen Tech Hub in September. So his plan of doing that and creating this business is actually going to come true, and it's a nonprofit, but we hope it becomes a template for other inner city locations throughout the country.